it's good to have those moments of gratitude, because if you're going to get caught up in the bullshit, man, like you just go mental.
Yeah.
Like I've had moments where it's just like you work so hard to get to a point where you're working on the business rather than in the business. But sometimes you get there and it feels lonely, right? But you got to also, I don't know, lately I've been looking back and just having a bit of gratitude. Definitely still ambitious and have big goals to achieve big things like yourself. But if you don't have those moments, you just forget why you're working in the first place, you know?
Hey, it's Julian from Loan Options. Today I'm here with a very special guest, a good friend of mine, and the broker I would use if I wasn't an asset broker myself. So
shit. I'll take that as a compliment, man. Thank you so much. And thanks for having me.
No, I appreciate you coming on, man. Tell us who you are, tell us where you're from. And,
so my name is Louie. I'm the director and owner of Odin Finance. Been doing finance for the last 9 or 10 years. And wait, how in detail do you want me to go? Like, do you want me to just
go
from the start?
Go. No, go for it.
Yeah. So, been in finance for the last 9-10 years. Essentially how I started was a bit of a funny story. Had no finance background. Was actually working in sales at JB Hi-Fi, believe it or not. And I was studying at uni like everyone else, eventually dropping out. I was studying health science, and my first job was in Rebel Sport, working in sales, selling shoes. Ended up getting a job at JB Hi-Fi, and I was studying health science, but I was going to master in PE teaching. And funny enough, Elias, we were sitting down one day, who works with you, he's one of your senior brokers. And he's like to me, man, like, you want to be a teacher, do you know how much they earn? And I was like, yeah, bro. And he's like, bro, like, it's going to really struggle to raise a family on that income. Like, do you want your wife to work? He started giving me all these questions that as a 17-year-old, you're not really, I don't know, for me, it wasn't like money driven back then. It was just more so happy life, happy family, as long as you could put food on the table, pay your bills. Yeah. Never had that huge ambition to earn a lot of money, right? So he started doing the numbers in front of me, and I'm like, man, like, you actually got a point. Like, if I was to...
Elias is a very deep thinker.
He is.
He's a very deep thinker. He's an extremely intelligent guy, and he's really funny. And the first time I really got a whiff of just how smart he is just how quick he's so witty. And that's usually a sign of like really high IQ. But I mean, he's a super funny guy, but he's also like every now and again, he'll stump you with a question and he makes you contemplate life, you know?
No, 100%.
So, but like to your point, I was the same. I think when I was working at Super Cheap Auto, which is owned by a super retail group, same as Rebel Sport. So kind of similar sort of pathway, start in retail, learn the art of sales, learn customer service, which I think is, you know, for the most part, one of the most important parts of sales. But I because of my background, because of where I came from, I always thought like I was studying IT, web and app development. And I thought, you know, if I get a good job in IT and I'm earning $75,000 a year, like, you know, I've made it. You know,
Sweet. Yeah.
That was honestly, that was to me, that was success. That was like from where I've come from. If I was earning $75,000 a year, that was life changing for me and for my family. I wasn't really thinking too much further ahead than help my mum, help pay some of the bills around the house, be able to go, you know, dinners and, you know, just have like I didn't really have, you know, enormous aspirations to sort of earn X, Y, Z. I was just like, if I can do that, I'll then reassess my goals and continue to expand on them and whatever. But it's funny, like sometimes you need to look back a little bit to sort of go, wow, how far I've come. I'm sure you're the same, right?
No, definitely, man. Definitely. And I'm in the same position as you. And back to that point, when he showed me those numbers, and at that point I was getting really good at sales. Like I was doing really, like it was just JB Hi-Fi. But we started doing the numbers in terms of how much I was going to be earning as a teacher. And then I put up my pay slips from JB Hi-Fi, and I was actually earning more money working at JB Hi-Fi 4 days a week than I would if I was to finish uni and become a teacher. And like if I'm earning X amount working 4 days at JB Hi-Fi selling computers, like I'm sure I can do something better like with that. And it wasn't always about money. Like I actually enjoyed helping customers and that type of stuff. But essentially it was just a light bulb moment for me. And I remember the day I was just like to my wife now, or my girlfriend at the time, like I'm dropping out of uni, and like, you know how it is, Lebos growing up. Yeah. It's the traditional way of going to school, you go to uni, you get a job, and then that's just the process. So at the moment you say you're dropping out of uni, it's like you're a dropout, right? Like, what are you going to do with your life? And then all this comes. So I had a lot of like criticism, a lot of doubt. And essentially I just made the decision and started working at JB Hi-Fi full time. And then from there with how finance came up was like, I was sitting down, I was like, okay, what are some industries that, you know, aren't going to die, right? And like, if you're good with people, you know, you provide good service, like you can help people, like how can you, what's a good industry to move into? And at the time, Fred had just joined a company called Lenfin, which was the company I used to work for. And I pretty much got an opportunity there to work for free. I pretty much said to him, I go, look, don't pay me. I'll assess the situation. And then like they gave me a shot from there. And I actually started initially in commercial property development funding right from the get-go.
Wow.
So usually people like would start with asset, then, you know, generally probably do resi after, and then go for the big stuff. Like it's sort of, that's the way, but it served me so well, Jules. Like honestly, like sitting next to my mentor, David Cray, shout out David Cray. He taught me a lot of what brokers are lacking in the industry right now. And that's understanding business and understanding financials and how to package up a proposal and send it to a lender. So the first 6 months, I literally didn't do anything but just watch this guy and asked him thousands of questions. You know, like, why is this? Why is that? And he will always give me the time of day. And those skills serve me so well and has put me at a big advantage in this market now when you're talking about commercial asset finance. And essentially from there, so the company was doing commercial finance and then they were doing resi finance. They had access to Westpac, Drive Express, and then they were using Mildura Finance to process their applications that didn't fit Westpac. And I was like, okay, so we started doing that. I go, look, what if I start doing like asset finance? Like it's an industry that, like it's a space you're not currently doing at the moment. Bro, am I talking too much? Do you want to?
No.
Okay, yeah. Sorry. From there, essentially, you know, being young in Western Sydney, you know, you're getting a lot of people, oh, you're doing finance. Can you do my car? Can you do my car? That's how it all started essentially. And I'll be like, yeah, like back then I was like, I didn't want to say no. Like maybe there's an opportunity. I never used to say no. I used to look into it and see if there is a possibility, then we'll do it. If not, then I'll say we can't help you. So got some car loan applications and started writing them through Mildura. I'm like, surely there's a better way to do this. And then I sort of made it my mission to get direct accreditations with everyone. And mate, just blew up from there. Just the moment we started getting direct accreditation, started understanding the business, we started leveraging our existing database, but we're also sister companies with an accounting firm that had a wide range of SMEs looking at purchasing machinery, trucks, asset finance, cars, whatever it might be. And at one point, it became the core focus of the business, asset finance, for that company. So we pretty much had Fred move out of Resi, come into asset finance, and we started hiring more staff. And I sort of led up that division. And that's how how this all started, you know? And then essentially I said, if I was to ever start my own business, I wanted to go niche and just do asset finance and not try to be the jack of all trades.
Yeah.
which has served me well, and I'm sure has served you well as well, in the sense that, because you're not trying to do everything, people understand that you're a specialist in the space.
Yep.
So when it comes to getting a consumer car loan or a PL, you understand that more than ever. You've got better systems in place. Your staff know all the policies. And at the end of the day, what matters most is the customer experience. They're going to get a better experience dealing with a specialist rather than dealing with someone that's trying to do everything.
This is a mistake that a lot of young business owners make, is they go for the shiny objects. And they try and build out all the verticals too fast, and just easily tack on resi. I'll easily tack on this, easily tack on that. Like, there is something to being laser focused and being a real hyper specializing your business. And that might be, it could be just asset finance, which is already a niche, but then you could go even more, which is like commercial asset finance. And then more specifically, wheeled plant, trucks, equipment. And I think the more you specialize, the smaller the pond is that you're fishing, but you become the biggest fish in a smaller pond, and you become really well known for that.
100%.
And you become, I guess, the go-to person for anything like that, because those communities, whether it's transport industry or whatever, they're all kind of mates, just like you got into finance because one of your mates is a lot of the people in those kinds of industries did the same thing. Their mate got into this and was like, I'll give you a start. And, and then they got big enough, or they got, self-sufficient, so they could go and open their own business, and then they had to buy a truck and whatever. It's the same thing. My brother's got a concrete truck. He didn't ever think he was going to have a concrete pump, but people around him got it. There was so much work. There was networking, all this kind of stuff. Get a concrete truck, and then that's how a lot of these people get into these businesses. It's not like they didn't wake up or they didn't dream all through school and say, I'm going to have a concrete pump. It's very rare that would happen.
Yeah.
And so it's very, very much like a close knit network. And so if you get in, then you obviously have a huge advantage if you're the guy that people go to for that. And I said that before, and I wasn't joking. I think about being the broker I would use, and if I didn't have a brokerage, one of the reasons is that skill set that you acquired, where you were working for free for 6 months or whatever it was, or maybe that skill set that you acquired, that patience that you acquired there, has set you up now that you're basically one of the top brokers in the industry. And your product knowledge has always been super impressive. You'll call me and go, by the way, did you know that this lender can do this little thing? I'm like, actually, no, I didn't fucking know that. And it surprises me every time. There's knowing a policy because you read off it, but then there's also knowing the minute details of the way credit will assess a deal. And they don't necessarily publish it because, they try and keep their documents to a 2-page, 3-page document, so it's easy to understand. But there is things that the credit team can mitigate. For example, it might say we need a 2-year ABN, 2-year GST. But if it's 18 months, and these aren't even, that hyper specialized, but my point is, if there's another mitigant elsewhere, they have replacement credit, or they have a property in the spouse's name, or they own property in a trust. Knowing these little things actually makes the biggest difference.
100%. If the lender does comp scoring or verse 1.1 or you know what I mean, they don't really advertise that on their policy. It comes from experience and
trial and error.
100%. And I can say the same about you. Obviously, when you were auto approve, I was calling you for scenarios, you know what I mean? So at the same time, I think how we got it was just always being alert, always being open-minded, because for me, when I was doing it, is I used to hound these BDMs when I first started, man. Honestly, some of them probably remember me and say, this guy just did not stop and never. Because I used to not, if I used to run a deal past them, I used to question it. You know what I mean? I used to say why? And then because I used to question it and I was curious and I was eager to learn, they'll tell me why. And then it would stay in my head. Yeah. So The reason why I was asking why is because if another scenario was to arise that matched the reason why they said that originally, I'd be like, that's the lender. That's why I'm calling them next. You know what I mean? So I'd be like, okay, they said no, but why? Like, I always drill the team now. Like, just question it. Why? Because they're not going to give you everything on that policy. They're going to give you the main points, but there's going to be little things left out. So always question why, and always understand it as well. So when another opportunity comes about and it matches them, you wouldn't even need to do anything. It would just click to your head because you took the time to understand, you know, that conversation you had, understand the why. So you know which lender is going to be suited for that next customer that comes along. You know what I mean? So
and the other thing is about how you position the deal, because it's not about like, you know, you could use please approve as is. And some brokers, I see that and I'm like, oh my God, like these guys don't understand the importance of notes and, you know, providing the lender with the story about why this client's buying this asset and what they're going to use it for and how it's going to generate income for them and all these kinds of things, right? And also just looking at the client objectively, like you're a credit analyst at the lender, and going, where are the gaps or the weaknesses in this application? And let me ask my client some questions that might paint some color around this particular situation. Like maybe there was a period where there was a few inquiries back to back. Okay. You could just submit the deal and hope the lender doesn't ask about it. You could do that. And maybe they don't care. Or you could be proactive and you could ask the client, hey, there was 3 inquiries back to back about 6 months ago. Can you walk me through that? Yeah. And then they'll go, oh yeah, actually what happened, there was this contract that I was maybe going to get and it was going to be, you know, an extra $10,000 a month. If I got it, and the payments on the truck, if I bought it, were only going to be, you know, $2,000 a month, blah, 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 whatever it is. But if you present that to the lender and say, yeah, there was the reason why they had inquiries back then is for XYZ reason. Now you've given them some color. Now they have more context around why there was 3 inquiries back to back. And, but the way that you present it, the way that you look at deals, and we've had you come and do some clinics with our team as well. I know you're paying me some praise, but I think the one thing I do love about this industry, and in particular people that are open-minded and that are curious, is like nobody's saying they have all the answers, and in particular those types of brokers that always want to learn. And you can learn from anyone. Doesn't matter if they've been doing it for 6 months or they've been doing it for 10 years or longer. But I think that's such an important part. And I think that's where, you know, yes, lenders might push back on a deal, but if they're so used to you presenting really good quality deals with really high quality notes, you have the permission. I don't know if that's the best word to use, but you have the permission or the authority to ask why. You know, if you're submitting a deal and it's got no notes and it's, you know, half the supporting documents are there, the other half are not. There's no color around why there's XYZ wrong with the deal. You really don't have
a leg to stand on.
You don't have, I mean, the lender's going to say no. And then if you go, why? It's like, well, do you want me to be honest with you? The honest answer, and I can't say this on a recorded line, is you've presented it like shit. You know, like that's really what they want to say to you. But
100%. Look, at the end of the day, I always say to the team as well, is at the end of, you know, that person, that assessor is a person, right? So if you're going to make their job easier, they're going to like you more. It's plain and simple. So if you're going to provide all the necessary info that they want, and also go out of your way to clarify things that they were going to raise with you, then you're making their job easier. And they're obviously going to like that a lot more, because they can be like, oh, that's a nice presented application. Okay, yes. Oh, he mentioned the notes, the inquiries. Okay, I was going to ask about those inquiries. Oh, he's broken down the living expenses if it's a consumer loan. Like examples like that. It just, you're on the front foot. You're not on the back foot, you know, and it's about what you said, being proactive, not reactive, you know? So I think it goes a long way. And, you know, it's definitely, look, I can't comment on everyone, but I feel like if everyone did that, it would be smooth sailing, you know?
And so you sort of, you kick some goals, you end up running the asset finance team, and that's where we met. We'd almost like grown up parallel, you know, we went to not the same school, but schools that were in the same diocese. We sort of knew the same people.
Yeah.
But we know I don't remember like crossing paths. Like we knew all of the same people, but I think maybe there was 1 grade difference, probably why.
Yeah.
But when we met, like I was very impressed. You guys are all the team was very young, and but then you end up deciding to go out and start your own business. Like, what was the catalyst for that? And then, like, talk about some of the fears. Like, you know, do I go out on my own? I've got this not cushy, but like I've got this job and I get paid X amount.
Yeah.
Like now I'm going to be sort of like out there fending for myself. Like, talk through that process.
Yeah, 100%. So there was a point where twice a week I'll get, why aren't you going on your own? Why aren't you going on your own? And the honest answer, even till now, was I don't want to. I'm enjoying it. You had to see the vibe we had at that place. Like, it was a place to work. Everyone was just there to help each other. Everyone was making money. Everyone was happy. And, you know, unfortunately, good things don't always last forever, you know? And there was points where I didn't even think twice. Like, nah, I want to really scale this. Everyone wanted to stay there and help grow the business. Things changed. And then it just hit a point for me when there was a few things that I won't go into too much detail, but there was a few things that came up, and essentially I was backed up against a corner, if I'm being honest, where it didn't make sense to stay at the company. I'll just say it like that. And I was weighing up either going and working for somebody or starting my own business. And for me, how I made the decision was, I'm not a very organized person. I'm a bit more organized now, but back then I was a bit of a mess. But when it came to my work, I had everything on Dropbox, everything documented. So everything outside of work, I was a mess. But when it came to my work, I had everything. So what I did have is I had Excel spreadsheets from every single month. And how I used to categorize my deals was I used to send them to my previous employer with which deals were self-generated and which ones were referred by the company. And then I had that, Jules, from 2015 or 16. And above 90% of the deals were self-generated.
Wow.
So for me, it was just like, it was a bit of an eye-opener. Like, if I was dependent on that company to provide majority of my deals, maybe I would have thought otherwise. But I thought, hang on a sec, like if it's 90% self-generated, like that tells me like I'm doing it myself already. You know what I mean? Technically speaking.
Yeah.
You know, obviously I received a lot of guidance and, you know, Dave Cray helped me. Everyone at that company did help me, but it was just that point. And look, it was actually at a really bad point, if I'm being honest. I had just gotten married and I just came back from a very expensive honeymoon, and I was forced in a corner and I was like, shit, what do I do? You know what I mean? And
I can't tell you how many of these podcasts I've done.
Yeah.
And every single answer, not every single, but almost every single answer, people have made these decisions at like the worst possible times, but they've made them when their life is under already a lot of change. Like the amount of people that have said, I just got married, I just had my first kid, like the amount of people that have said that. And I think like what happens is you start to learn to prioritize, like when you're single, even if you're in a relationship, you're still not married yet, right? You're still not like, you're not living with the person necessarily. Like you still, in some situations, may have your own finances independently, whatever the situation is, right? But when you become married, you start making decisions that are not necessarily for your own. Like if you're having fun and you love the vibe and all that kind of stuff where you're at, you almost sacrifice a bit of maybe what you would consider upside, like more money or more commission or like a larger share of the commission for your own self-generated clients, because, you know, you like the camaraderie, you like all of that kind of stuff. But when you're married or newly married and you start, everything becomes so real. Like now you got to pay your mortgage and now you got all these bills and, you know, you want to start a family. And, you know, there's never a really good time. I don't know. I haven't spoken to anybody who's run a successful business that said, yeah, I started it at the best possible time. The other one that's common is, oh yeah, COVID caused me to do this. And
It says a lot, doesn't it?
Yeah, it's shocking to me that like just how there's a direct correlation between life events and people deciding that's it, I'm doing this for myself. And it's a high risk, high reward scenario because it could go really, really well. And then you've set yourself and your family up and you don't have to worry about those conversations where Elias is giving you reality checks about, what life is like as a teacher. And, the teachers do amazing work. And I do think they're underpaid. There's some amazing teachers that have been very impactful on my life.
100%. Yeah.
And I'm sure that's the same for you. So when you think about it, you're like, wow, these people don't get a lot of money considering. 100%. Yes, they get some extra time off compared to other people, blah, blah, blah. But, those people are choosing in a lot of cases, those people are choosing to help people. They're nurturing types usually. There's some bad ones too, don't get me wrong.
100%,
but for the most part, they're doing it for really good, very virtuous reasons.
Yeah, I just want to say as well, like I wasn't downplaying, neither was Elias. So the conversation was, sorry, I forgot to mention, which was pretty important. Elias said, do you want to get married and have kids?
Yeah.
And I said, yes. And he said, do you want to have your own house? I'm like, yes. So that's how it started. So that's how he did the numbers, because he was actually saying, but bro, if you're going to have a mortgage and your mortgage is this, your repayment will be like close to this. You're going to have kids. You're not going to be able to do it by yourself unless your wife works and she gets more income than you. So it wasn't like downplaying like teachers in that way. Like they
of course, it didn't come across that way.
Yeah. But like, it was just more so like, you're right. They don't get paid enough. And for what they do. And once broke down the numbers, it wasn't going to be like once it was brought to life what I actually wanted in life, because back then when you're younger, you don't really think about it that much. I don't know about you, but when you're 16, 17, you're not thinking about.
Well, I wanted to be a cop.
Yeah.
And I changed my mind, or I had people influence me in year 12 when I'd already committed to it and chosen subjects that basically excluded me from an ATAR anyway. So like I couldn't really backpedal. But everyone's like, I know a lot of cops. And at the time, what actually happened was there was a lot of people that I knew that were police officers and their marriages broke down. And it just seemed like 3 or 4 in quick succession. And I was like, and people were like, man, it's really hard because like, you work weird hours and then you don't see your partner and then like you're always stressed because of the things you see and then you're not really at home when you are at home.
Yeah.
And then like in quick succession, I saw all these marriages break down around me and they were cops and like people that seemed happy and then like all of a sudden their marriages sort of break down. And I got talked out of it for that reason. And I was like, I do want to have like, I'm from a broken home, so I didn't want to have the same thing put on my kids,
Of course. Yeah.
So that was and then I was like, all right, well, what else am I really good at? I scored in my HSC 92 in IT. So like I was top of the class in IT. And
explains a lot now.
Yeah. So on top of that, I got certificates in while I was in year 12, I was like doing courses on the side. So I was getting skills on top of what I was doing for the HSC subjects. And then I left and did a web design development. I actually applied for software programming initially, and I missed the deadline. They told me a deadline was this, but it was a deadline for a different college. So then I went to web development, app development, and but yeah, so like that was a second choice career. And then like finance was like lower down the list because like I was always really good at maths, and I accidentally, very similar to you, got into finance. I didn't think of finance initially as sales. I thought it was more like customer service banking. Like that was how I viewed finance.
Yeah.
But I had friends in the automotive industry. I loved cars, and was obsessed with them at the time. And then my cousin, who was working in the automotive industry as well, was like, oh, like there's an opportunity. Let me introduce you to some people. I was working at Super Cheap Auto at the time, and they're like, there's some people here that like sell car accessories too. Like, isn't that what you do? I was like, yeah, basically. And like, how much do you earn? And I was like, at Super Cheap, I'm on like, I think I was on $15 an hour or something. Like it was.
Yeah. The discount was good, but yeah.
Yeah. I got my money's worth in the staff discount for sure. And then so I was like, oh, why don't I go and sell car accessories over here? And that was like an entry point into a finance company that ran the finance team, but also the aftermarket accessories department in a car dealership. And then I just took steps backward to take steps forward. So I was earning really good money in accessory sales. And then I was like, I don't want to do this for the rest of my life. Finance seems like a career. I was still studying web and app development.
Yeah.
I built an app and did all of that stuff. And I was like, I either want to get back to the sort of roadmap of IT, or I'll pivot. And if there's an opportunity that comes up in finance, I'll do that. So I got offered a junior, like a cadetship, basically,
like
as a finance manager in a dealership. Yeah. Their job title was junior business manager.
Yeah.
But I basically took half what I was currently earning, maybe less, maybe a third. I went back to earning less than 40 grand a year, 38,000. I think my pay slip would say. It was like, I don't even know if that was legal back then, but that's besides the point. For full time. So I went and did this cadetship, and then eventually grew my career from there in asset finance. So that's how I landed in. And it's funny because some people get, like you have these dreams, you have these goals, you have all of it, but every now and again you'll just accidentally fall into something, and then you can't imagine what your life would be like if you didn't fall into it. So yeah. But yeah, sorry, we'll circle back to you just got married, you just had your expensive honeymoon, you probably like maxed out the credit card.
Honestly, it was stressful, man. Yeah. It was stressful. And like we had just built a duplex, my brother and I, and it wasn't finished when we came back as well. And that was a nightmare. Like for anyone that wants to build, like just think twice. That's all I'm going to say. Unless you've got like an endless bank account, and you don't have a budget, then you can build. But otherwise, you're going to pull your hair out. So there was just a lot of moving parts. So getting a big honeymoon, a big wedding, and also finishing the duplex. And my wife was also pregnant as well. Like it was not long after we came back, she was pregnant as well. So all that pressure on me, it was like when I think about it, it was tough. It was really, really tough.
They say pressure creates diamonds.
Yeah, 100%. And it's funny, like you posted something the other day, I think it was on Instagram about, I can't remember the full context, but something about blowing up the ship. So there's no plan
burning
B.
The boats.
Yeah. That's what I had in my, I
love that.
That is insane.
I always reference that because like, and it goes, we're only talking about it just, not that long ago, me and you on this podcast, so rewind a little bit. We're talking about having the hyper focus. If you somebody who gets distracted, I'll get this business venture and I'll get this person involved and I'll do this and I'll do that. That is some of the biggest mistakes you can make. Pick one thing and be the best at that fucking one thing, and don't stop until you've mastered that one thing. And then if the business is humming along and it's making lots of money and you can basically manage yourself out of the business, so you can bring a GM in or bring someone else in who's going to replace you, then go and start looking at the second thing and the third thing and rinse and repeat that. But until the business is so self-sustained that you can remove yourself from it and it can run just as good or better. If you find the right people, make no mistake, you can bring people in that will run it better than you can. Until you can find that point, until you reach that point, don't think about plan B. There's no plan B. Burn the fucking boats. That's the burn the boats thing.
Yeah, no, 100%. No, when you saw that, I was like, that defines Julian Fad, man. And for me, it was just like, I had to have that focus. I had to be extremely, extremely ambitious. No plan B. I'm going to go for it. I've made the decision. Yeah, sure. I could have got a job at another brokerage, right? But at the same time, that wasn't in my head. That was just, I wanted to succeed, And, God works in mysterious ways, man. Like I had gotten my accreditations all done within 2 weeks. So credit to Connective for that. And the first week I landed like 4 or 5 deals and they were good earns on each one of those deals. And it just like bang, like it was just like all that stress. And like, I'm not going to say it came so easy, but it was just like a blessing. I felt like God was saying, I'm with you. Like I'm holding your hand with you on this journey. You've got a lot happening, and 5 deals straight away, bang, into the thing. So, and that's sort of how it all started essentially. And, in terms of hiring staff and, actually growing and working on the business rather than in the business, I got to take my hat off to you, because I don't know if you remember this, but we had the conversation at, I think it was Nando's in Para, and you had just opened your business and then you already had 3 or 4 people. Like you had Tony and then you had Chantel, you had a couple of people, and they were taking apps and they were doing deals. And I'm like, man, how do you, like, for me, I don't know, I couldn't trust anyone else. Like for me, I was like, I don't know if you remember, I'm like, I can't cop another person taking an app off my customer, you know what I mean? Or doing the deal, and you were like to me, man, you just got to let go. Trust me, they'll be all right. And when you said that to me, it sunk, like it really, really sunk. And I haven't looked back twice, because now my team, they're amazing. They're doing everything. And it's like, sometimes you need to have those conversations with people that have done it before. Do you know what I mean?
And I think I probably had a little bit of a head start on that component, because people forget, like, this guy that is purple and does the loans, and he's on LinkedIn all the time, whatever. But people forget that I was a broker, and without sounding like a wanker, I was a very successful broker. It was very common for me to settle more than 40 transactions in a month. I think the most I did in a month was 49 settlements by myself.
Wow.
And so like $3 million in net amount finance with an average borrow of like 30 or 40 grand, like not like $200,000 transactions like I was doing. And every now and again, I pull out the old logs and I show my team, because like when I'm asking them to do something, it's only because I used to do it, or
100%.
I know it works. There's a blueprint for how to be a successful broker. Has nothing to do with, how, do you have the gift of the gab? And it has everything to do with relentless discipline in process, and the way that you speak to customers, and the confidence and the conviction that you speak with. Like, do you want to speak with the broker? This is like a good question to ask yourself. Do you want to speak with the broker who goes, we should be able to find a solution. Send me, what am I going to need from you? I need a license. I need, or do you want to deal with the broker that says, hey man, I know the exact lender. I've got the solution for you. I need your license. I need your Medicare. Give me this, give me that. If you get it to me tonight, I'll have it proof for you tomorrow. Which broker do you want to deal with? But that conviction only comes with experience, and it only comes with product knowledge. That's why when I say yours, obviously very impressive. That's one of the reasons why you've been so successful. When you talk to people, even a story you were telling me about where you were competing with another broker, and the other broker might have been, actually, I think it was someone from your team. It wasn't even you. It might have been Phil or someone. And he's like, oh, let me guess, they took you to this lender. And the customer was like, yeah, they did. He's like, well, that's not going to work for XYZ reason. He goes, oh shit, yeah, that's what he said. It's like, yeah, well, if he was a good broker, he would have known not to go there in the first place, Yeah. And that's but yeah, I was just to go back. The reason I had a little bit of a head start there is because I was a broker, and then I had to make the transition because I was given the general manager position at Auto Approve, and I had to start phasing myself out slowly from being a broker. And it was hard for me at first, because I'm like, whatever they can do, I can do in a quarter of the time, and I can get a better outcome for the client, and I can make more money for the company. So I had to not do it all at once and rip the Band-Aid off. I had to slowly hand over. And then so what I would do is I would do the first initial conversation, but then I would give it to someone else in the team and say, now here's what I need you to do with it. Do this, do that, run serviceability, do this, do that. And then slowly I would give them more and more of the process. And then eventually what it became is I'll do the initial phone call and then my team is going to now do the rest of it. But I'm still here for you. I'm still going to check in with you. I'm still going to make sure you're getting the service that you deserve. But my team's going to help deliver this because they're better at it than I am. And it also became about time. Like even till now, there's a mortgage broker that I've dealt with for 10 years or so as a referral partner. And they still call me and they still say, I want you to call this client. And it's very hard for me because I can't deliver the service that I once did. I can't call the client and deliver the same service that I once did 10 years ago. My role is very different now. I have 50 people in the team across 4 states, 3 countries. Like I can't be doing the whole deal myself. And even if I could, because I could do it, but I wouldn't do a good enough job. And the reason I wouldn't do a good enough job is I have so many other responsibilities and so many other meetings that I need to do.
Your mind's cluttered.
Well, it's not that. It's like I have so many, like I am the person whose skills aren't as sharply honed as, say, one of our senior brokers. They're writing deals all day long. They're across lender policy. I'm across lender policy too, but they're across it to the detail that we're talking about to make it a good broker. I'm across it at a slightly higher level and, sort of more broad level, not down to the minute detail that I once was. And the reason for that is now I've got to play a very different role in the business. And that is to, to focus on growing the business, to focus on partnerships, to focus on hiring and recruiting the right people. And so you can't be, so now I'm a specialist, but I'm a specialist in these areas over here, not necessarily a specialist in writing loans.
Yeah.
I can still write a loan well, but not as well as people in my team.
100%.
Makes sense? So when I hand over, if someone says, I want you to call the client, they need to understand that I could do it, but if I give it to someone else, they'll do it in my team.
Better job.
Because I've trained them and they've been trained by either myself or Tony or James or someone who was trained by me or has the right training. And they can do a better job than I can. And they're going to be more responsive and they're going to be easier to get on the phone because they're not in meetings for 10 hours in a day, you know?
How good is it? I don't know if you've had this happen before, but you get a remittance and you're familiar with the deal and you walk up to one of your team and you say, why'd you take it to that lender? And then you start having a conversation with them. You're like, no, you should have taken it here. And then they prove you wrong.
I love that.
That is the best feeling in the world.
It is a great feeling.
Like there's a part of you like, fuck, this guy just put it on me. Sorry for swearing, but he just put it on me. But I'm like happy in a way.
There's a part of you that like your ego is like, oh shit, he knows more than me now.
Yeah.
But there's it's a good problem to have. That's why you do it with a smile because at the end of the day, that's what you want. Like that's when the apprentice becomes the master, or it means that you've done a good job training them, really, or getting them to understand the importance of the product knowledge part. And all the best brokers I've spoken to, the one thing they have in common is those two things. They're very disciplined, and not all of them are some people are very gifted when they talk. They know how to sort of influence people and stuff, but not everyone. But the one thing they all have in common is, or a couple things. One is the product knowledge. They know product, they retain knowledge, they write things down, they have their own little sort of broker Bible or, a way of retaining and centralizing that knowledge for other people in the team to use it. But then they're also relentless with their process. They have the same, not when they're talking to clients in terms of sounding robotic, but their process is robotic. Like I do step 1 and then I do step 2 and I never do step 3 before I've done step 1 and 2. Like
system.
It's a system, it's a procedure. We follow that. This is how we get the best outcome for clients every time. We don't take shortcuts. We don't, guess that this is the right lender and just go, it feels like that's the right lender and put it there. We go through this process where we workshop the deal. We do the checks and balances, cross-reference their policy to make sure we haven't missed anything. All the best brokers that I know do that, and they do that really well. But yeah, I do remember the conversation at Nando's, and I think like you were at a point there where you were sort of trying to get to the next level.
Yeah.
But you were running out of time. You're like, how do I grow the business from here to here? And because I had that knowledge at Auto Approve, where I was like, there's an adjustment period. They're going to do things that annoy you that you wouldn't do, or they're going to fuck up a deal or two. But in the long term, you being able to remove yourself means that you can have a second, a third, a fourth, a fifth loan writer, and then continue to grow the business from, a maximum of whatever it is, 30, 40 loans a month to, 60, 70 loans a month to 100 plus loans a month, and just continue to grow on that path. I remember that like it was yesterday, actually.
Yeah, man.
It's crazy how fast time goes.
It's crazy, man.
Crazy, yeah.
It's crazy.
Yeah.
At that point, you had 4 staff. Now you got over 50. It's crazy, man.
It's it's been a journey, man. Like you've seen it probably more. You've seen the downs more so than more other people are exposed to, but lots of things to celebrate in there. Like I know like pride is a sin, but so you really shouldn't dwell in that area too much. But it is nice to have that sense of accomplishment. Like regardless of what happens, the journey has been a great one, and I've met so many great people, and for me it's like you can get a little bit stagnant, or you sort of feel like, okay, we're losing momentum or whatever. But when you surround yourself with good people, it's like
it helps.
It helps. It definitely helps. And sort of the next stage for Loan Options will be the hardest stage yet, because it will be how do we get from where we are to creating sort of real serious enterprise value. How do we continue our momentum with the technology development? How do we, build sort of, on what we've done with the LO 3.0? How do we, if that's industry leading, how do we take it to the next level so that, we're beyond being able to catch up to us? And, that's now we're not looking for sort of the 1%, You can pull big levers when the business is young and still early. Then what happens is you start looking for the 1% gains, and then what happens after that is you start needing to look for the decimal point gains. And I'm not saying we're at that point yet, but it certainly feels like there isn't. When I look at it, and even people that are brought in to sort of give an external view, there isn't any one lever that we can just pull that will change the business overnight and send it on a different trajectory. But that's part of the fun. It's like, it's a puzzle. You figure out, okay, what's next? All right, which partnerships can we explore? What can add value to the bottom line? What can add value to the team? Which people can we bring in that will sort of spark that next stage of growth? So it's very different challenges to when we were sort of 4 people in Parramatta in that sort of shoebox office. And I posted that the other day because that photo I took of Tony in the corner of the office is the same photo that I was sent for the New Zealand office. And it just took me back, and it was like,
yeah, it's unreal.
It literally feels like yesterday.
And it's good to have those moments of gratitude, because if you're going to get caught up in the bullshit, man, like you just go mental.
Yeah.
Like I've had moments where it's just like, You work so hard to get to a point where you're working on the business rather than in the business. But sometimes you get there and it feels lonely, right? But you got to also, I don't know, lately I've been looking back and just having a bit of gratitude. Definitely still ambitious and have big goals to achieve big things like yourself. But if you don't have those moments, you just forget why you're working in the first place, And the best way what was a big eye opener was, have you watched Moneyball?
Yeah. Love that movie.
So the moment at the end when he shows that guy that's never hit the ball before, and he hit it and he just like dropped to the floor, and like he just didn't want to look, and then turns out he hit a home run.
Yeah.
So like it's a bit about like, you haven't hit the home run yet. You've done a very good job, but like in your head, but it's still good to have look back and see what you've created. And when you posted that photo, I was like, bro, wow, like it's insane, you know?
Yeah. And look, the other thing is like people don't really realize when you're trying to build this, you know, growth company and you're bootstrapping it, like just how stressful it is. And, you know, you've got a lot of responsibilities. You know, if you've got 50 people that you're paying for, you know, let's say it's 30 employees or a bit over 30 employees. And then you've got people that are contractors and people that are, you know, sort of in outsourced resourcing. It's a lot of people that you're responsible for. It's a lot of bills to pay. It's a lot of things.
Families are feeding.
And the reality is, you know, you don't pay yourself the way that you should. And it comes at a great cost to your own personal wealth because you're the one funding it. You're the one dipping into your pocket to, you know, make sure that everybody else is getting paid on time. I haven't paid myself on time in years, man. I pay myself when I can. That's the life I chose, you know?
100%.
And oftentimes you'll get the thought come over your head and it's like, it was a much simpler business when it was just me, Tony, Chantel, and Pan sitting in the Parramatta office. And, you know, I knew how much profit we were going to make and we had almost no expenses. Like there were only variable costs, like how much we spent on Equifax and how much we spent outside of that, like that office was my brother-in-law's accounting office. And he was very, very kind to help me get set up and, you know, wouldn't take rent and all that kind of stuff. And I'm very grateful for him because along the way he's been very supportive and, you know, it's been great. His guidance as our accountant has been, you know, amazing and couldn't really be here without him. So, but yeah, having that flexibility in the early days of like, you know, we just have, you know, 3 staff plus me and, you know, we know that we're going to, you know, write X amount of deals. And that was just from my network. That was just from our partnerships. That was just from like very much similar to you. You know, a lot of the business that I generated over the years at Auto Approve, I was the first employee. So that business wasn't writing loans until I joined. And I joined having a network because I was in We Are Finance and We Are Loans before that. So there's people that came with me that only wanted to deal with me. And then the same kind of thing happened with Auto Approve. Now, I didn't go after any of the partners, but there were some people that were just like, I won't deal with anybody else. You know?
Yeah, that's right.
And there's, you know, when you've brought those partnerships to the table, it's like, well, you know, what do you do? Like they're not going to deal with you.
100%.
So they're going to deal with me. And in that sort of environment, it gave me that sort of kickstart momentum. That's why like our first month we made profit, but I haven't taken a dividend since I started that business. I haven't
really.
No, not one.
Shit.
All the money we make,
reinvest
it straight back in the business, and you know, hire more staff and whatever, and you know, and all the losses when we lose money, it's me going into my offset account or me going into even my children's bank accounts. You know, like that's how real it is. Like it's not easy. So it's you know, it's one of those things that people like, okay, yeah, it's very shiny on the outside, but there's an element of extreme hard work, extreme dedication. And going back to it, burn the boats. There's no plan B. There is no plan B. If I had a plan B, Loan Options would have burnt to the ground a long time ago.
Yeah, 100%. There's
no way that it would have endured all the challenges, all the you know, the ups and downs of the market, all of it, you know, the failures in building technology, the investment in technology that didn't work out, the projects that we built that weren't up to scratch, like all of that, you know. So when you're seeing what's out there, just know that like as much as it looks like, oh, it's all success, it never is just success. There's always bumps in the road. And that's another part that I think young founders get sort of lured into, like it should only be an upward trajectory in growth. Like we've had months where we've gone backwards. We've had months where we make changes and go, shit, we shouldn't have made those changes. Let's reverse them. You know, that's part of it.
Social media, that's why they're thinking about it. If you think about it, like if you go on TikTok and you're just seeing like all these people, they think like they can jump in and, you know, I'm going to start an e-com business. I'm going to scale it up. I'm going to do this. I'm going to do that. Like even those people go through challenges. You're just seeing the shiny objects, right? But you're not, once you get into the nitty gritty of it all, it's not easy, you know? You know, 100% I'm with you. Like you're putting it all on the line, and you could easily downscale your business and probably pocket a lot of money into your pocket every single month, but you're thinking about the bigger picture.
Well, I'm thinking about building, you know, real career pathways for the team. I'm thinking about building, you know, real enterprise value for the shareholders, and you know that's part of it, right? It's there's a few things to it, but you know, I don't want people to think, you know, that we are just a business and we're happy doing whatever numbers. Like, I want there to be growth. You know, because there's a saying that says if you're not growing, you're slowly dying. And I believe that, because maybe not straight away. You might get 3-5 years, good run, profitable business. But, you know, if you're not adapting with the times, if you're not investing in technology, if you're not sort of seeking out what's out there, trying to change the way you do things to be better, just even a little bit better, you're going to end up behind, even if you're in first place now. You only have to, I mean, you don't have to look, I don't need to mention it by name, but there was a point in time where there was a brokerage that you would almost feel like you were competing with them on every single deal. And now you don't hear about them. Now you don't come up against them, like almost never, you know? And so if you don't adapt, if you don't make changes, and you're not growing, then you'll slowly end up dying. So
100%. And like, I think for me, like as well, and I think you're very similar in that mindset when you don't want to like one day say I could have done more. You know what I mean? Like for me, that's what keeps me going. It's like, yeah, you can run a small ship, you know, you can run a good profitable business, but if you're not growing every single year and you're going with the motions, how are you going to hang on to your staff? What are you working towards? What's the vision? You know what I mean? And I think because you have such a high ambition, like you want to revolutionize how lending's done. Like you're putting all your money that could have been profit into building this technology to change the game. Like as somebody wanting to join a company like that wants to go in a growing business, that would want to join a company like that, not a company that, oh, we're happy with what we're doing at the moment. We're happy with our numbers. If we can maintain that, then it's all good. Like, where's the fun in that? You know,
and you'll only attract mediocre people if that's your business model. And you know, I mean that respectfully, because you know, there's times, like I said, where I've thought, you know, I'd love to just, you know, just be on the golf course at 2:00 and, you know, like
you already are, but what are you talking about?
I played golf yesterday, but do you know what I mean? Like I'd love to be, that's different. That was a work event. But you know what I mean? Like it's the work-life balance thing doesn't exist when you're doing what I'm doing. It doesn't. There's no such thing. Like, and if you're worried about work-life balance, the business has already failed. And I do my best. You know, I've got 2 young kids, a wife who's very supportive.
Yeah, God bless them.
You know, and when I'm there, I like to be there, you know, put my kids to bed. Like there's some non-negotiables that I do. Like I'll come home, I'll eat. Yes, the laptop might come out, but it's going to come out after the kids are asleep and, you know, me and my wife are sitting doing argili or something, you know what I mean? Like there's some non-negotiables that I won't screw with. But it is hard for her. It's hard because, it's long hours, lots of travel, lots of this, lots of that, but it's, hopefully going to be worth it one day.
Yeah. 100%.
And,
it will.
And the worst case scenario is, I'm proud because I know that I didn't leave
that's the thing.
Any stone unturned.
100%. Like you would.
Nobody's going to be able to question, oh, like could he have done this? Could he have done that? I've done everything I can.
And then you'll feel good about yourself because at that point, you know, what's the worst thing that can happen? Really? Like you open up again, 2 or 3 people, you've still got the network, you've still got the data, you've still got like, there's like, you know what I mean? But like at the same time, it's just like, knowing you gave it your all, and then not regretting anything once you're freaking 60 and 70 years old. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, I could have done this, could have done that.
And you're not
like,
defined necessarily by your failure or success. I think it's like people look, I think, people look at this business and it will create opportunities for me regardless of what happens. Like I think, we're onto a really good thing, and I'm super optimistic about Loan Options. Like I think it's already, got industry leading technology, and it's only going to get better from here. We'll get the sort of, tweak a few things in the business and get it like really humming and get it consistently growing and get some real momentum, and like, we're there or thereabouts. The worst case scenario is people look at it and go, that guy gave it a red hot crack, and it opens other doors. I'm not interested in any of those other doors. I'm only interested in this. But my point is, I'm still going to be healthy. I'm still going to have my health. I'm 31 years old. If I'm going to fail, and even if I'm 40 years old and I have to start again, like it's still very young in the scheme of things.
Yeah, it is.
How many people didn't make it? Like, how old was Jeff Bezos? How old was, all these people? They didn't make it when they were necessarily, young, super young people. Like they started to be successful a bit later in their life. Maybe he's a bad example, but my point is, at 40, you still got some kilometers left in the legs. You still got some.
And the most important thing as well is the skills you have developed along the way. Like Hormozy talks about it all the time. I love Hormozy stuff, and he's failed so many businesses. He's had it all, failed. But one thing he didn't lose was his skills.
Yeah.
And you think about growing a business from where you did in bootstrapped in 4 years, forget the money. Think about all the things that you've learned when it comes to paid media, when it comes to running ads, building tech. Like those are skills that fucking,
marketing, all of
marketing.
it. I mean,
some
of them have been really expensive lessons too, man. Really expensive lessons. And, for sure, like, going into, let's say, for example, when I'm 40, I'm in another venture, and like, I've got those skills. I know the knowledge. I know who are the people to watch out for. I know all the things that I've had to go through and learn, the expensive lessons. They're all they're in here now. They're in the hard drive. So
100%.
Yeah. But so when you launched Odin, so you had this conversation at Nando's. Business has gone good at that point in time, but you're like, something was telling you, I want a little bit more. What was that at that point that made you want to like seek more? And then what's been some of the challenges since you've gone through that period of like growing the team? Like now, how many people in the team now?
So there's 6 of us in finance, and we just started insurance. So we've got 1 full-time insurance broker.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
Yeah. Started a month ago. So yeah.
See, how's that going?
Yeah, it's going good. It's going really, really good, man. But in terms of answering your question, for me, it was just like, I sort of became obsessed with it, running the business, the whole business side of things. I got obsessed with it. I won't lie. It's to a point where it was like a lot of the times I was only thinking about growing this business and like, being at a point where I can work on the business rather than in the business. For me, it was just like, I never wanted to write loans my whole life. Like I enjoyed doing it, but at the same time, like I wanted to take myself out of that comfort zone and sort of do something different, right? Where I'm just growing something with value. Right. That was the biggest thing for me. Was the turning point was, okay, if I keep doing what I'm doing now, we'll have a roof over our head and we'll be comfortable. And, there's not going to be a lot of pressure, right? But at the same time, I wanted to challenge myself, and I wanted to be at a point where I've got a business that's working necessarily without me. You know what I mean? Essentially, like if I was to go away on a holiday for 2 weeks, I don't have to worry because the team's managing it all, When I would like to say we're at that point now, but it's still like, I still get involved as well.
Yeah.
But the turning point for me was essentially if I'm obsessed with this thing, right, and it's all I think about during the day and I really want to grow it, you would like to one day say, like, this is an asset.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like for me, yes, you're going to work hard, you're going to earn an income. But for me, it's just like you want to have something as an asset when it comes to the time where you want to actually hang up the boots and say, I've got something that's valuable.
Yeah.
That was the biggest thing for me.
It's important for business owners to know that, like, you know, it's okay to say that I'm building this business for an exit. You know, it doesn't matter if that's in 50 years, 100 years, but
Why not,
businesses
bro?
that do not exit, there's some ridiculously high statistic. It's something like, I'm not going to say a number because I'm worried it's going to be wrong, but it's something like 50% of businesses that do not exit end up failing.
Yeah.
So some ridiculously high number. So if you're a business owner, you know, and you don't have a clear path and you think, oh, I'm just going to treat this as a cash cow for as long as I can, that's okay. But there should be an exit strategy.
100%.
And the business should always be prepared for an exit strategy. You shouldn't just wait until someone knocks on your door. The way that you build the business, you know, you should have all the policies, the procedures, so that you can give, if someone came tomorrow and said, I'm going to write you a big check, but you need to give me all of these documents by tomorrow, otherwise no deal. You almost should have the business set up like that. So you could go, here's the keys, and these keys have access to all of our policies, procedures. This is exactly how you run every process in our business. Here are all the documents. They're all archived and filed in, you know, in a certain format in Dropbox or Google Drive or whatever. Here's, you know, all the staff documents. Here's all the, you know, everything needs to be packaged for you to pass a due diligence with, you know, someone who's interested in investing or buying your business. But, you know, some people are scared to say that. I like that you're saying this. At some point, like, I don't want to write loans for the rest of my life. I love that.
Yeah.
And neither do I. I don't want to be the purple loans guy the rest of my life.
Yeah, and I'm not saying there's nothing wrong with writing loans your whole life. You would like, there's nothing wrong with that. It's just for me personally, it was just I wanted to be able to work on the business.
Yeah.
Like I wanted to one day, I had ambitions. I wanted to have a team, and a big thing was for me is I read this book called Build to Sell.
Yeah.
It was a very big eye opener, man. Like in terms of, it was about this guy that ran a marketing agency. And he was trying to be everything, like a full service marketing company, but he was very hands on. Spoke a lot about, you know, how he was generating revenue in the business and, you know, what percentage of customers were making up most of their revenue and what the business owner was doing in that company. And one day he had this moment. It was a profitable business. I don't know if you read the book, but it was running a profitable business. And he one day he wanted to sell. He just wanted to spend more time with his family. Yeah. His kids were getting to that age where he wanted to, you know, spend more time with them, you know, and just relax. You know, he's worked hard his whole life. He went and approached somebody about it and they said, your business is not valuable. And he's like, what do you mean it's not valuable? Look how profitable it is. And the guy's like, well, if we take you out of the business, what happens to your business? And then it was just an eye opener for him, like in the book. It's like, you know, the value is in you. It's going to be very hard to sell. You know what I mean? And for me, it was just like, there's nothing wrong with earning a good income and being a broker for the rest of your life. But me personally, I didn't want to, that wasn't me. I wanted to one day say, okay, if I'm going to work this hard and be this passionate about what I do, I want to at least one day say, okay, this thing is worth money and we can retire on this. You know what I mean?
And for asset finance, it's harder because, you know, like mortgage brokers have an exit strategy because they can sell their trail book, you know?
Yeah, 100%.
Or they can sit on their trail book.
Definitely.
And then just let it run off, you know? For asset brokers, because it's all transactional income, you don't really have that. So insurance is a smart move for you. I think, you know, you've got the right types of clientele, so it makes total sense for you to do that. It's a nice add-on. It's not a totally different vertical, but it's additional revenue.
Like a lot of people might think, oh, like you're getting distracted, right? But the way I thought about it is,
no, it's complementary.
It's very complementary, but at the same time, I don't know if this has happened to you, but essentially we've referred deals to external insurance brokers outside of our company. Just out of good faith. Like, you know, there was a point where I was knocking on doors saying, please refer your customers. I'll give amazing service, going through that whole spiel. and them giving me a crack, and then we're still working together now. So when people used to approach me saying, hey, refer us clients, like I would be open to it. I'm doing the same thing. So why should I say no to them? And that, there's been times where we didn't have a preferred insurance broker that we're working with. So there's been times where customers have called us and saying, mate, we weren't even covered. This guy that you put us onto, didn't cover me properly. And I'm like left in a position where I'm like, what the hell is that, man? Like, how bad do I feel? Like, it ruins my credibility. And the thing was, like, you don't have full visibility of what these people are doing. And it was a big eye opener for me. It was like, if we need insurance for every customer that comes through our doors, and, they wouldn't mind using our services, at least we have full visibility of it and we're in control. Like, we've got the right process, we have the right values. We know that this person isn't going to do anything unethical and that's going to jeopardize their situation. Yeah. So that was a big reason why we started insurance, is because if we're obviously not going to refer it out. We're going to do it in-house and we're going to do a good job. But above all, we're going to make sure these people are covered. Yeah, 100%, and everything's going to be documented.
We've had some false starts with insurance as well, and in terms of referring to different insurance brokers, and I have to say I'm less than impressed with the caliber out there. Don't get me wrong, there's some good ones, and we think we've found some good people to deal with, but my God, are there some bad ones out there? There's people that haven't even returned calls that,
You know what it is? I swear, man, like it's because it's so price driven. Everyone wants cheap insurance because people hate paying it. Yeah. It's forcing the broker. Like a lot of the times, like I'm not going to say it's not the broker's fault. They shouldn't be doing it. But a lot of the times they're manipulating the policy and not putting correct information on there to reduce the premium, to give the customer a better price and win the deal, which is so wrong. Yeah. Which is so wrong. But at the end of the day, like it's a tough market out there, man. Like you're trying to get a quote and you try to educate people. People, so they don't really care. Like you say, look, okay, you're going to get a, public liability quote. You're doing 2 mil turnover, but you're putting 300K there. You know what I mean, for your turnover. And that's why your premiums drop down. If you educate them, you say, look, but they're only putting 200K. Some people still go ahead with it and they're running the risk. But it's just some people, it's such a price driven business. From the month that we've been into it, a lot of people are just making the decision based on price, where they really need to take a step back and put themselves in worst case scenario. If something was actually to go wrong, are you covered? What's the point of paying insurance if you're not covered properly? Yeah. So you're literally burning that money. You're better off spending a bit more, putting the true correct information. So this way, if something does happen, you're paying for what you're getting. You know what I mean? Exactly. And at this end, like there's a lot of insurance brokers that are scared to lose the deal because they know how price driven it is, and it's all about price to a lot of people. So they won't put the correct information. So it reduces the premium, so they win the business. It's not the right way to do things.
Nah, not at all.
But that's what I've noticed of being in the, opening up the insurance arm for the last month. I've seen that. I've seen a lot of deals get lost because they're not putting the right information on the policy.
That's crazy to think that that's happening because, look, it's definitely a dinosaur space to be in, as is finance. Finance is one of the reasons why our business has been moderately successful. Is like we're coming at it from a technology and new generation approach. We're not coming at it from a finance approach. Like what's actually beneficial for the client. People never used to be able to get an instant quote that's transparent and discloses all the fees. The broker they'd call a broker, or they'd walk into a finance manager's office in a dealership, and they would get somebody tap dancing around the question, and they wouldn't have visibility until they were already approved and already had the loan contracts shoved down their throat.
Yeah, 100%.
Now you can go on our website, for example, and in less than 30 seconds, you can see all the lenders, all the rates, all the fees, which one has no early termination, which ones do have. Like you can see all of that. So it's like we came at it from a different perspective. We came at it from the customer's perspective. Like what should the customer be able to get access to? And I'm hoping that insurance, I hope that industry follows suit, because to me, that seems like the only other industry I can think of that is more backwards than finance. I don't know.
They're really doing their best to tighten it up. Like it's not easy to get into space. Like really, it's so hard.
It's a high barrier to entry.
Which I like, and it's good, and they should probably think about doing that for finance. To be honest, because I put a post about it on LinkedIn, and I think it performed really well because a lot of people resonated with it. It's just like you're thinking about the process of buying a home, like how big of an investment that is to somebody, and you have some people that can become a broker like in the space of 2 months, like doing a course. And with insurance, you need to be the tier 1 for insurance. You'll pull your hair out.
I know,
you're a genius, and you'll pull your hair out. So like it's they're really making it hard, which is good. So it's good to see they're making those changes. I think with finance, my comment is that they need to do something, not probably 5 years experience before you can go on your own, which is probably a bit extreme, but they need to do a bit of something, because
5 years is not that long, man. I before I started my own business, I had almost 10 years experience. Like 5 years, if you're acquiring skills and you're actually acquiring and you're working across multiple employers, and 5 years for a young person is not a long
it's
time.
not.
It's such a small, it goes so fast. Loan Options has been going for 3.5 years. That feels like our conversation in Nando's feels like yesterday. And, 5 years is not a long time. I think, maybe you say 3 if you want to be generous, but these people that come in, they're brokers for 6 months working for a brokerage, and then they take a bunch of clientele and go and start their own. Man, it's just like the lowest of the low like move you could possibly do. Like, firstly, they're not showing any loyalty to the people. Like, you really had to take a long time to think about leaving this business you're in.
For a long time.
And me, like, I didn't want to leave auto approve. I was in a similar position where they were going to hibernate the business. Like I was left with no choice but to start my own business or sit on the sidelines for a couple of years. And that's not me. I could have taken the easy route and just got paid for doing nothing. But I knew that the concept of what Loan Options has become had a lot of legs, and I was working on the concept since 2017. So I didn't want to leave. And I think the ability for someone to be 6 months, and then like even the lenders, the way they accredit brokers, they shouldn't be accrediting someone with 6 months experience, by themselves in their own business. There should be prerequisites like, okay, where have you worked and all this kind of stuff. Some of them do. The banks are a little stricter, but just give anybody an accreditation if you got a credit rep number, and like there's more than just, are you someone who is fit and proper? It's like, do you have the necessary experience to deal with clients who, or sort of, fraud cases or identity takeovers or vulnerable customers? Like, I bet you if you talk to a broker and, you ask them, have you ever had a scenario like this? And you sort of start explaining it. They go, yeah, we do them all the time. You're like, okay, well, did you know that it's actually a vulnerable customer and you should have run these processes instead of those processes? Like, there's so many examples of that. Like, a husband won't let the wife talk to you and all this kind of stuff, and he's putting it under her name. And it's just like financial abuse, basically. And, we've had situations before where the clients got in contact with us, and we're like, no, we need to speak to the borrower. Like, no. And then she's like, look, can you get me out of this? Like, I don't really want to be doing this. And, I'm kind of being pushed into it. Like, wow. But if you're not asking the right questions and you're not suspecting that, and you've not seen this stuff before, you just go, I'm just going to get the loan approved and settle it. Yeah, awesome, mate. You're talking to the husband, you think everything's okay, but like the husband's a psychopath, and the wife is like, got kids with him. So she's like, doesn't want to leave, but like also he's just like going to take the car and then sell it and then use the money to gamble. Or like, it's just, if you're not experienced and you haven't seen that, 6 months in the job, mate, it's not enough,
100%.
So yeah, I do like the higher barrier to entry. I think that's important. Our industry needs to get better at that. the lenders need to get better at telling somebody, listen, come back when you've got, 2 years with it. I think that's still not enough, but it's not because I want people to stay with me. We give people career pathways to become their own broker anyway. So I don't want people for life. I want people, for a period where we can help develop their skills, that the value exchange is fair, where, we're getting value out of them, they're getting value out of the skills and the IP that they're developing by being in our business.
100%.
And then give them an opportunity to maybe have, like guys like Jason Dana, like they almost have like a little, their own little franchise. So they're running their business, leveraging our brand. It's their own business within our business. So you've got to, as a business owner, sort of adapt to that model. But Jason's been in finance for longer than I have, I think, so he's someone who's probably earned the right to run his own business. And there's a lot of people in the business that probably like that too, But yeah, what was sorry, we chatted about a lot of stuff. What was the part where you thought, maybe I've made the wrong decision here, or growing the team, or like, what were the hurdles, some of the hurdles that you faced when you decided to grow it?
Yeah. So, well, you're obviously aware of this. We probably can't get into too much detail, but for me, I've always wanted to master the paid media game for finance. I feel like it's you've done well with it, but it's just an untapped market. Like no one's really captured the better end of the spectrum. Like they haven't really taken it with both hands. And for me, it was just like, I built this referral system, how I started my business. And the referral system was essentially specifically designed for accountants. So I'll meet with the accountant. It literally tackled every single pain point. It came to referring a deal to a broker. So essentially, once the deal settled, the customer will rate their experience from 1 to 5 stars, which was visible on their dashboard. We'll upload amortization schedules, tax invoice, signed contracts on every single transaction settled. So for an accountant, that was massive, right? And for me, I thought, wow, I'm going to kill it. I'm going to go and sign up all these accountants and I'll be able to build a strong business, because an accountant referral, generally high intent and high conversion. And don't get me wrong, we built a good business. But the thing was, it's very hard to scale. And I'm sure you'll be with me on that, is you are not in control in terms of how many leads a referral partner is going to send you, right? So the struggle was, okay, yeah, we're signing up all these accountants. Okay, how many of them are going to refer? And we can't track how many deals we're going to be able to get from them. 1 month, it might be 2. The next month, it might be 0. The next month after that, it might be 1. So for me, it was just like, I was putting in so much energy signing up all these accountants. And then I got to a point where I'm like, it was a bit like disheartening in a way. Like you would go out of your way, you have an excellent meeting, they'll sign up to the system, but they would refer once and then maybe refer again, and then 2 months go quiet and then refer one. And for me, it's just like I hired this staff to really push this, right? I want to provide them good quality leads. In my head, as a business owner, I want to focus on growth. I want to focus on partnership. I want to focus on ways we can attract customers, right? I got to that point, but it was almost a bit disheartening that, I put so much energy into it and it just wasn't working. So I thought to myself, I wanted to create something else where I did have more control over the lead flow. And that was obviously paid media. So I've been working on building, something that's going to really, hopefully revolutionize a way a truck's purchased in Australia. It's almost there. And when we are there, we'll talk more about it, I'm sure. But
yeah, I'm really excited for that. It's a great project, and I really do think it's going to be super successful. I think the problems that it does solve are ones that we're pretty familiar. We will add value to people sort of looking to buy a truck, looking to finance a truck. So I guess everyone has to watch this space. There'll be some announcements in due course, but you've had a couple of cracks at the technology. So like Odin-based was quite a good system.
Yeah, it still works today, mate. Yeah. It's still good. And, it's still there. I could, if this doesn't work out, I can hire a few BDMs and just really try to push that side of it and give it more of a crack. I don't want to say I gave up on it because it's still working and it's still providing deals for our business, which is great. And honestly, like the quality of referrals and the type of customers we're working with from this system has been exceptional, like absolutely amazing. Like just to put into perspective, I had one accountant refer one customer, and from that one customer of like 200x what I paid for the system.
Yeah, wow.
Just to put it into context, right? So I definitely don't regret what I've done. But in terms of a scale, like the rate I wanted to scale, and if I'm going to build this business that does have that value, you want to be in control of your leads, right? And for me, it was just like, I'm not in control. Like even if I sign up another 200, they might not all refer it. Like I don't have control over that. And it's a lot of effort.
Similar thing with mortgage brokers. Like we give them the widget, we do all this stuff. But
that's what I mean.
Whether they send one or send 10 or send none, it's out of our control. So all you can do is try and give them tools and knowledge to activate their database and get referrals from them. But you know, get them to try you, because I think your team's the same. Like they're not going to let them down. They're not going to let the accountant down.
Yeah, well, the ball's on the line as well. Yeah, because I've got that rating system there.
Yeah.
So like I've got a rating system there. No one done that with a referral system. Yeah. That was really putting your balls on the line on every single deal that's going to get referred. For me, that was the biggest thing. Was like, this accountant should trust me because their customers are going to rate me and they're going to see it every time they open up the system. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But again, like when it came down to it, man, like a lot of people they don't care. Like, and look, a lot of them, especially accountants, they don't want to be involved in the referral thing.
SMSU or whatever. Yes.
But even then, like some of them don't want to get involved in the finance referral. You know what I mean? And like you learn these things along the way. Definitely wasn't a failure. It built what I have today. It built a good solid foundation from that referral system, you know, and it's also good to have a conversation with someone when you do have a bit of a point of difference. Like you went the extra mile to build something that's going to benefit all parties.
And it shows that you're trying to understand their business better as well. Like if you just turn up and go, you door knock an accountant and go, yeah, I'm an asset broker, I can pay you a referral fee, versus we built a system that's specifically for accountants and you get the amortization schedule and you get this and you get that. And we won't give away all the secrets, but it's a great system. And but that was your first that you dip your toes in
the bit of a tech space. I remember when like I first showed it to you, I was just like, oh, I'm going to show Julian Fayad this thing and he's going to laugh at it. But like, anyways, I'll show it to him anyway. Because I was like, man, like, look, what you're building is obviously a much bigger sort of project to what I've built. And then when I showed it to you and your reaction was like so amazed, you're blown away. And it was just, that was a bit of like a gratitude moment. I was like, oh, fuck, it really impressed him. Like that means like.
Man, it still impresses me. I think like, because, you know, the difference is, right, like you didn't necessarily come from a tech background.
No, at all.
But like you had the foresight to understand the pain points and the user experience was good. And like you clearly put a lot of effort into it. I'm still impressed. So it's great to see, you know, people have a go at this stuff, because you're right. It's like, what is your point of difference? Every broker out there is saying, I've got this many lenders, or do this or do that, I'll get the best rates, blah, blah, blah. But like, what's really the point of difference? Is it your technology? Is it your service? Like, but how help them understand how your service is different. Like, and if you've got this platform that just streamlines the whole process and gives them the documents that they forever have to chase. I mean, I talked to my wife's an accountant. My brother-in-law's an accountant. My uncle's an accountant. I've got a lot of accountants in the family.
Yeah.
And
they still refer work.
Funnily enough, probably accounting's my weak point. You know, like just I mean, I'm not. When I say it's not weak. It's just, if you're looking at some of my strengths, accounting's not up there with, you know. So, but thankfully, I have all these good people around me. So.
Yeah, 100%. Play to your strengths, bro.
Yeah. I don't want to be sitting there reconciling transactions. I did it for the first, 6 months, 12 months in loan options because I had to, and because I couldn't afford to hire, a dedicated resource. And as soon as I could hand the keys over for that task, I was thrilled.
Yeah, 100%.
There's a direct correlation between me spending time in spreadsheets, reconciling and zero and all that kind of stuff, and then the growth of the business after that.
Yeah.
So as soon as you can hire someone to do the shit that you hate, that's probably the moral of that story.
100%.
But understanding how much time those accountants spend in chasing up, hey, I need to lodge this client's BAS. They bought a car. I need to, give me the tax invoice. Give me, understanding how much they hate that. When you present a solution for it, you're like, it's a no-brainer.
I think for me as well, what helped was when I was at my previous company, a lot of my referrals did come from accountants. So before I actually created the system, I went and had meetings with them and I said, if you were to use a system, what would you want out of it? So I sort of built it around, like I said to you when I first said, try to tackle every pain point they said, and one of the biggest pain points was chasing down documents, if not the biggest, right? So for me, I was just like, okay, well, it's part of the system. That has to happen for the deal to be moved to the completed stage. Those documents need to be uploaded to the system. And it's blown away a lot of accountants, and some of them have just been like, it just depends on the person.
Some people can almost be like, yeah, I expected you to do that.
Yeah, expect you to do that, yeah.
You can't please everyone, but the fact that most lenders, I think you posted something on LinkedIn and you spoke about amortization schedules and a lack of transparency on early termination fees on early payouts. I mean, this is something that we've spoken about collaborating on in the future. I think that is, I can't believe we're in 2024 and, you go and ask a lender BDM, can you tell me how your early termination fee is calculated? They couldn't tell you. A lot of them could not give you a straight answer. No. That is just so terrible.
It is. And I'll give you an example. Yesterday, Jad was on the phone. I won't give any names, but we got a payout from a lender as well. I won't give the name. And the payout was ridiculously high. It looked like they charged 100% of the interest. And we're like, no, but we've gotten recent payouts from the same lender, similar time, and they were nowhere near that. So Jad just called the BDM to get clarification. She's like, if you look at the documents and you read the documents, you'll see the calculation there. It's pretty easy to work out. It is not easy to work out. If you see this thing, I guarantee you won't be able to work it out. It's just, like I said to you in that LinkedIn post, it's like a 4-unit math equation. And it's just that sort of response you get, it makes us look bad and it makes us look like we're not being transparent. I would love to send it to every customer with the loan contracts, because you don't want to have that conversation in the future. Right. You're trying to build a business. You're trying to feed your family. You don't want a customer calling you saying, you said this and how come I'm getting paid this? But when the customers ask us and the lenders don't even tell us what it is, how do we answer that?
The other thing is we had a referral partner get upset with us. They're like, look at this email from one of our clients. They're complaining. And the client said, I borrowed $42,000, but now my payout's $58,000 and I've had it for a year and a half and all this kind of stuff. And then I was like, wow, this sounds way off. Let's investigate. So I said, let me come back to you. Found the broker that looked after it. Turns out they didn't borrow $42,000. They borrowed $53,000. Or $54,000.
Oh my God.
And the loan hasn't been going for 18 months. The loan's been going they've made 4 payments. So if you have the payout schedule there, they would have known that at the beginning.
Yeah.
Then it's created tension for this referral partner. And then you go back to the referral partner and go, look, here's the facts of the matter. And we did tell them that if they pay out early, that it's going to cost them X, Y, Z. And they will be liable for a portion of the interest. But until you actually show them hey, if you pay out at month 4, your payout is actually going to be more than you borrowed, because there's fees, charges and interest payable on top of, you borrowed 50, whatever it was, right? You borrowed 50,000+ for the car, but then you got to add the fees to set up the loan, establishment fee, origination fee, all that kind of stuff. And then interest charges. By the time that's done, of course the payout is higher than the loan amount. You've barely touched any of the principal yet. 4 payments you've made, you've probably paid $20 off the principal. You haven't, the way that commercial loans are structured as well, you pay or just loans in general, you're paying more interest at the beginning period than you are, and it's an exponential curve. So that the further you are in the loan, the more of the principal you're paying off. But the earlier you are in the loan, the less of the principal you're paying out, and the more of the interest you're paying. So it would be nice to have that. Even just getting the equation from the lenders is difficult, and they're like, oh, I don't know where to get that. Like I've had those responses, and I'm like, well, who's the actuarial, or who's the person that wrote, who's the data scientist, who's the person who wrote these contracts, who's the legal team? Like, put me in touch with all these people. Let me talk to someone who knows how this works, because clearly there is an equation, because we're asking for a payout letter and you give us one. But give us that, we can reverse engineer it and we'll build our own version of it.
Yeah. I think as well, I don't know if it's for sure, but I think the client's repayment history and conduct is a play in terms of what it's calculated, which makes it hard for them. I don't know for sure, but I've heard it sometimes from some people. They say if the conduct's amazing, they're more inclined to give more of a discount. But if they're missing payments and they go in arrears, I think that makes a change to what the payout would be. So it's hard to provide an equation not knowing what their conduct's going to look like. I don't know if that's exactly true, but I wouldn't be surprised if it's something about that.
Yeah.
Like they're reluctant.
There's also like some lenders have, they look at where they bought the funds, like what price they bought the funds at. And in an environment where, so we haven't even seen the worst of it. Like, now rates are high. When rates start to go back down, termination costs on commercial loans is going to be through the roof. Yeah,
ridiculous.
And a lot of people don't know this, but the reality of it is they're buying the funds at a certain rate now and selling the funds at a certain rate now. When the base rate goes down, now when they try and replace that loan, they're going to be replacing it at a much lower interest rate, which costs them margin, which then means they have to pass on that as a termination cost. So when the rates start going back down, this is the thing. You put another post, and there was a guy having a whinge about saying that price isn't everything, blah blah blah. Sorry, you were saying like price isn't everything. The broker needs to pick the right lender. He needs to understand your position. You're saying no, price is everything. And I was like, if you go to a broker that doesn't know this, and we're in a rising rate environment, but we're stabilized now, lenders have started dropping rates a little bit, but we're not really going to see any major movements probably for another, 3 to 6 months, maybe the rest of this year. But when the rates start heading down, reasonably aggressively, when people try and terminate those contracts to refinance them and get better deals, if they're in fixed rate contracts with early termination costs, they're actually going to be penalizing themselves like a huge amount. And the lenders have structured it that way so that in those times where they're lending money out and there's a really good yield on the money, if people want to exit them to refinance somewhere else or even with the same lender, you can argue for a preferential payout and you can do all these other things. But once again, that's why the broker that you use is really important. If your broker doesn't know how to do those things, or if your broker doesn't know this, he's positioned you with a lender. I don't want to say names, but like I kind of do, because like I feel like they should be shamed a little bit, but I don't want to upset anybody. So, the lenders that are doing that sort of practice, it's actually going to cause grief for their brokers. And in the long term, it's going to make the brokers not want to use that particular lender. So I do think it does more damage and more harm than good. It hurts the customer. It hurts the broker. It hurts their own reputation, because at the end of the day, the client's going to go, pick a lender. Lender A, charge me how much? I've been paying it for 2 years. I just want to refinance it because rates have gone down. So long term, it does a lot of damage. But if it's up front and, it's like assuming the rates stay the same, here's what it looks like. Assuming the rates, You can do scenario modeling. If the market rates, go down by 2%, here's what it will look like at this month. It's hard. I know it's hard, but these are challenges we can overcome. These are like if their system can generate a payout quote at that point in time, looking at the information that's available and the way the rates have changed and all that kind of stuff, you just need to build it so that you can ask for 3 scenarios, Give the client 3 scenarios. If the rates stay the way they are and you pay out and your conduct's good and you pay out at, month 12, month 24, month 36, beyond that kind of doesn't matter. But, in the first 3 years, here's what your payout figure is going to look like. But if the rates go down by, let's say 2% per annum and you want to terminate at 12, 24, 36 months, whatever they want to, here's what the termination fee is going to look like. I think if you give them scenarios, they can't come back and be upset with you or then go to the referral partner and go, it's $4,000 more than I borrowed and I had it for 18 months when it's like, it's only been running 4 months. You've made 4 payments. So obviously you can never keep everybody happy, but if it's more transparent from the lender side, then the brokers can be more transparent because
100%.
They can't produce that document. What chances the average broker have?
You don't want to, like as a broker, you don't want to say the wrong thing. You know what I mean? So like if you're not getting the true and correct information and you're passing that information back to the customer, it's making you look like you're hiding something for your own benefit. But I speak on behalf of a lot of brokers. It's not the case. People don't want to have that conversation because at the end of the day, like people want to put food on the table for their families. They don't want to, ever have a poor experience with a customer, which that person will tell multiple people about their experience. As a broker, you wouldn't want that. You want to make sure they understand everything before they take the loan. But we can't provide the right information if we're not given the information. Yeah. So it's very frustrating. I was actually speaking about today. It's like another thing as well, like I actually think interest rates, it's a bit of a controversial one, what I'm about to say, but even comparison rates on all commercial contracts, because there's brokers that are just saying the base rate when they're quoting customers. I don't know if you've been experiencing it. Yeah. But they'll just quote base rate, but they're charging 8% com.
I know.
And it's just like...
it's not giving the client the effective rate of interest.
No. Yeah. And like we need to really put the customer first in this situation. Like put the customer first. They're taking out a lot of money to borrow, whether it be a truck, car, whatever it is, it's a lot of money. They need to know what they're getting themselves into.
Yeah, it's kind of
not be manipulated.
It's kind of crazy that that's not the norm, and because it's like unregulated, that this is kind of okay or seen as okay. Obviously our technology, and I know the project that you've been working on or we've been working on is aimed at putting transparency even for commercial transactions, but of course, you just look at loan options, you go online, even if it's commercial, we have the interest rate and the comparison rate and the fees. And the thing about why that's important to me is like, at the end of the day, you're not lending money to a company. A company is just a legal entity, a piece of paper. Someone is guaranteeing that loan. That someone has a wife, has a family, whatever, like maybe not, but they have people that love them and care about them and whatever. Why would we treat that person any different to a consumer? This doesn't make sense. They're still a person. I wouldn't, like when people come to my house, I don't treat someone who's a PAYG person any different to someone who's a business owner. The conversations we might have might be a little bit different. How's the business? What's keeping you up at night, whatever, versus, what's your boss like? What's your team like?
100%.
What do you love about your job? Like the conversation might be slightly different because they have different needs. But the way that I treat that person is still offer them coffee, still offer them food, still like, do you know what I'm saying? It's like, it's a weird thing that our industry does. And it's because like, it's not regulated. So let's protect these sort of people that are doing it the cowboy way. And the problem is if you're competing against brokers who are doing it the wrong way, like you mentioned, you have no chance because they're telling the customers like straight up lies, there's no other way to describe that. They're just lying to the customer saying that this is the rate, this is the rate. But really they've got 8% brokerage loaded in, and or more brokerage loaded in, and so that interest rate's not it's not truly reflective 100%. Of how much charges that customer is paying.
And I'm ruthless when I'm talking to someone and they're saying, what rates can you get? And I say, look, right now you're looking between 7, 8.5. Yeah. Oh, I'm getting 6.2. I'm getting 6.5.
Yeah. And they're just making up a number that can't exist.
I call them out. Yeah. Like, I'm ruthless. I'll go up to them and say 6.2, 6.5. All right. How much did you borrow? Pull out my calculator right in front of it. Is there a balloon? No balloon. Okay. What's the repayment? Work it back. Your rate's this, man. It's whoever told you that is lying to you.
Yeah.
And then it's just like oh shit moment. But like, I'm ruthless when it comes to that stuff. And that calculator, if you're a broker, anyone watching this, you need to download that
HP12C.
Yeah. That is level up your game. Like any junior broker that's wants to, have an advantage, in the space, is being able to calculate repayments for anybody at any given point. Is having that on your phone is just gold. It's a bit annoying how to use it, but
it's sort of like using it. It's almost like the backwards. You go like 16 instead of saying 16 plus 16, for example. You go like plus 16, it's just basically, it's hard to sort of explain it, but it's almost like a backwards calculation, or you can reverse engineer different models. If let's say in calculating a repayment, you might have 5 variables: loan amount, interest rate, balloon payment, yes or no, advance or arrears. Like you've got some variables in calculating a payment. A HP12C calculator, if you are missing one of the variables, you can reverse calculate what that variable is.
Yeah.
And that's pretty cool. And it's a skill that's not really taught these days. But it's pretty handy to have.
It is very handy. It makes you look like the expert. Like if you're having a conversation with someone and they're saying what rates, I go, don't worry about rates. Let's talk about repayments.
Yeah.
Okay. Give me the figures and I'll give you repayments right now.
Yeah.
And it's extremely accurate as well.
Yeah.
Like if you do it correctly, present value, future value, put the term, make sure it's amortized correctly. Like you said, advance, arrears, put the rate. It's usually to the T. Like when you put it on like a drive online system or compare it on your system. So
what I've noticed with some of the commercial lenders, may or may not have mentioned one of them, but they also build in a monthly account keeping fee and don't tell you. This is like commercial lending just summarized, it's like, God, why not? Like you say, oh no monthly account keeping fee. But then like every time you calculate a payment with that lender, it's always $5 a month off. You're like, why is it $5 a month more than what it should be? Like, okay, they've just got an undisclosed monthly account keeping fee. It's like, well, it's unregulated. It's like, it's crazy to me. I don't know. I just look at it and go, I see all of our clients, customers, whatever you're comfortable calling them, I see them all as the same. Like I don't look at this person and go, he's a company, I should treat them different. They have different needs and requirements, but treat them the same. Like give them the same transparency and they'll come back to you and they'll be loyal and they'll be, all that kind of stuff. When it's just smoke and mirrors, it's just really ugly. It's really ugly. But man, I'm really excited for some of the news that's going to come out soon, and really happy to sort of be part of that journey in a small way. I know you've worked really hard for the last few years on that, so I'll be shouting it from the rooftops for you, mate. I'll be there to support. So
I appreciate it, man.
Before you leave, we've got a tradition on this podcast, and it is for you to give us your 60-second pitch on why you should use Odin Finance. So on the count of 3, just go for it. Tell us why someone should use Odin Finance instead of the next broker, for example. All right, ready?
Done.
Go for it.
You use Odin Finance because not only are we going to get your loan approved, but we're going to get you approved with the right lender, and also talk to you about your future and make sure we put in place how we're going to achieve the best lending for you moving forward. So it's not just about the first transaction. What can we do for you to serve your business for the lifetime?
Beautiful, mate. Beautiful.
How was that?
Good effort. Good effort. Love it.
Yeah.
I think that's something you guys do really well. You know, the amount of times I see you guys think, you know, okay, well, the client's needs are multiple trucks over the next 12 months, like, you know, using CBA for the ABCD policy, get the first one done with the financials, but then after that, you know, it's easy, or setting up a MAF facility. So well done to you, man. You got a great team. Everyone in there is like really loves it. Your leadership style is very good. It's definitely a lead from the front position and leadership style. They all respect you because they know that you've done it.
Yeah.
And thanks as well. I know you've come to our office a few times, done clinics with our team. You're a weapon, mate. Thank you.
Thank you. Thanks, Julian, for having me. Appreciate it,
bro. Yeah.
How was that?